I was sitting in my kitchen yesterday morning, same thing I do every day. Wake up around 6:30, make my coffee, sit at the kitchen table, watch the sun come up. I'm 67 years old, been retired for 3 years. Now still getting used to it. Some days are good, some days. I just sit here thinking about friends who are struggling. Yesterday was different though. I couldn't stop thinking about my friend Tom. He's 70 years old, 3 years older than me. We retired around the same time, worked as an accountant for 42 years. Retired 5 years ago with almost $500,000. Saved. He and his wife Linda have been married 46 years. They raised one son, Brandon. Last week, Tom told me something that made my stomach drop. His wife Linda has breast cancer. The treatment is going to cost $45,000 out of pocket, and Tom doesn't have enough money to pay for it. Not because he didn't save, not because he made bad investments, but because over the last 3 years, he gave $70,000 to his adult son, Brandon. And Brandon hasn't paid back a single dollar today. I want to tell you Tom's story, and then I want to tell you about my other friend, Mike, who did the exact opposite, because the difference between these two men is the difference between financial independence and financial disaster in retirement. Last Thursday, Tom called me. It was about 9 in the morning. He said, "Robert, can you meet me for coffee?" I could hear something in his voice. Something was wrong. I drove over to his place. Tom was sitting on his back patio. He had 2 cups of coffee already poured, one for me, one for him. He didn't even say hello. He just started talking. "Robert, I need to tell someone this because it's eating me alive. Linda doesn't want me to bring it up anymore. She says what's done is done, but I can't stop thinking about it." I sat down, didn't say anything, just waited. Tom said, "You remember 3 years ago when Brandon got laid off from his sales job?" I nodded. Brandon is Tom's son. He's 42 years old, now married with 2 kids. Tom said, "Brandon called me crying. He said, 'Dad, I'm going to lose the house. The mortgage is behind. I'm trying to find work, but nothing's coming through. Can you help me just until I get back on my feet?'" Tom looked at me. His hands were shaking a little bit. He said, "Robert, what was I supposed to say? He's my son." I went to my IRA, took out $25,000, paid off Brandon's mortgage arrears, gave him a little extra for groceries. Brandon said, "Dad, I will pay you back. I promise." I asked Tom, did Brandon get a new job? Tom said, "Yeah, he got a new sales job about 6 months later. Things were looking up." Then Tom stopped talking for a minute. He took a sip of his coffee, looked out at his yard. He said 6 months after that, Brandon's wife needed a new car. Hers broke down completely. They couldn't afford the payments on a new one. Brandon called me again. Tom said, "Dad, I hate to ask, but we need $15,000 for a down payment. If we don't get a car, Jennifer can't get to work. Well, figure out the monthly payments, but we need help with the down payment." Tom looked at me. I could see he was embarrassed telling me this. He said, "Robert, what was I supposed to do? They're struggling. I'm his father." I took another $15,000 out of my IRA. I said, "Did Brandon pay back the first $25,000? Tom shook his head. "No," he said, "no. But I figured once he got stable head, pay it all back at once." Then Tom told me the 3rd time last year, Brandon wanted to start his own consulting business. He was tired of working for someone else. He needed seed money, $30,000 for equipment, website, marketing, startup costs. Tom said, "I told Linda I didn't think we should do it. Linda agreed. We already gave him $40,000. But Brandon said, 'Dad, this is my chance to build something for my kids to create generational wealth. I need you to believe in me.'" Tom paused again. He said, "Robert, I gave him the $30,000. I didn't say anything I was doing. The math in my head, $70,000 in 3 years. I said, "Tom, has Brandon paid any of it back?" Tom looked down at his coffee cup. He said, "Not a dime. The consulting business isn't doing well. He's barely breaking. Even he can't pay me back until the business turns a profit." And here is the part that broke my heart. Tom said 2 months ago, Linda started feeling tired. All the time we went to the doctor. They ran tests. Tom stopped talking. I could see his eyes getting wet. He said, "Robert, Linda's got breast cancer. I reached over and put my hand on. His arm didn't say anything. Tom said the doctor wants to do this new treatment. It's supposed to be really effective, better outcomes than standard treatment, but insurance doesn't cover it. $45,000. He looked at me. He said, Robert, we have the money in the bank. We have about $80,000 in savings. But if we spend $45,000 on Linda's treatment, that leaves us with $35,000. And I'm 70 years old. Linda is 69. What if something else happens? What if the car breaks down? What if the roof needs replacing? What if I need treatment someday? Tom put his head in his hands. He said, every night I lie awake, thinking about that $70,000 if I hadn't given Brandon that money, we would have $150,000 in the bank right now. Linda could get the treatment, and we wouldn't be worried. He looked up at me. He said, Robert, my son is 42 years old. He's healthy. He could have gotten loans for all of that, car loans, business loans, even personal loans. But I can't get a loan for retirement. And I definitely can't get a loan to pay for my wife's cancer treatment. I sat there with Tom for another hour. We didn't talk much, just sat there. I kept thinking about one thing. Tom said, your kids can get loans. You can't. Let me show you something. That makes Tom's situation even worse. That's $70,000 he gave Brandon if Tom had left it in his IRA, invested in a simple index fund, assuming a 7% annual return, which is conservative for stock market averages. 3 years later, that $70,000 would be worth about $86,000 today. But here is the really painful part. If Tom had left that money alone until he was 80 years old, which is 10 years from now, it would grow to around $137,000. And if he left it until he was 85, it would be worth $192,000. So Tom didn't just give away $70,000. He gave away his future financial security. He gave away $122,000 in future growth. And for what Brandon hasn't paid back a dollar, the consulting business is failing. And now Tom is lying awake at night, wondering if he can afford to save his wife's life. Now, I want to be very clear about something, because I know some of you are thinking, Robert, you're being too harsh. Tom is a good father. He was trying to help his son. You're absolutely right. Tom is a good father, and wanting to help your children is one of the most natural instincts we have as parents. But here is what nobody tells you. Every dollar you give away in your 60s is a dollar you cannot get back. And unlike your children, you cannot borrow money for retirement. Let me tell you about Mike, because his story is the complete opposite. Mike is 68 years old. He has 3 daughters, all grown, all doing well now. But 5 years ago, when Mike was 63, his oldest daughter called him. She was getting married. She wanted a big wedding. She asked Mike for $20,000 to help pay for it. Mike said no. His daughter was shocked. She said, Dad, you have the money. I know you do. This is my wedding. Don't you want me to have a nice wedding? Mike said, of course. I want you to have a nice wedding, but I'm not giving you $20,000. I will pay for the flowers as my gift, but you need to have a smaller wedding or save up longer. Mike's daughter didn't talk to him for 3 months. Mike's wife was devastated. She kept saying we should just give her the money, we can afford it. But Mike stayed firm. He told me why. One day he said, Robert, my father gave my brother $50,000 to start a business back in the 90s. Then my dad ran out of money when he was 79, had to move in with us for the last 6 years of his life. Mike said, I watched my father lose his independence, lose his dignity. He couldn't even afford to take my mother out to dinner. Everything had to go through me. Mike said, I will not do that to my daughters. I love them too much to become their burden. So Mike's oldest daughter had a smaller wedding. She and her husband paid for most of it themselves. It was beautiful. 2 years later, Mike's middle daughter asked for $15,000 for a down payment on a house. Mike said no. He offered to teach her how to budget better instead. Last year, his youngest daughter asked for help with student loans, $30,000. Mike said no, told her about income-driven repayment plans she didn't know existed. Now here is what happened last month. Mike's 3 daughters came over for Sunday dinner. At the end of the meal, his oldest daughter stood up. She had a glass of wine in her hand. She said, Dad, 5 years ago, when you told me no about the wedding money, I was so angry. I thought you were being mean. I thought you didn't love me, but now I understand. She said if you had given me that money, Dad, I would have spent it, and then I would have asked for more. But because you made me figure it out myself, I learned how to manage money. Mike's middle daughter said the same thing she said, Dad, my friend's parents. Keep giving them money. They're in their 30s and still financially dependent. I'm 29, and I just maxed out my Roth IRA for the first time. I would never have done that if you had been my bank. Mike told me this story last week. His eyes were watery. When he told it, he said, Robert, I have $420,000 in my retirement accounts. If I had given my daughters that $65,000 they asked for, I would only have $355,000. But more importantly, he said, my daughters respect me. They don't see me as an ATM. And I know for certain I will never be a financial burden on them. Let me tell you what happened with Tom this week. Brandon called him again. The consulting business needs another $20,000 to stay afloat. Brandon said, Dad, if you don't help me now, everything you've already invested will be lost. Tom said no. It was the first time in 3 years Tom said no to his son. Brandon got angry. He said, but Dad, you helped me before. Why are you abandoning me now? And Tom had to tell his son something that broke his heart. He said, Brandon, your mother has cancer. We need every dollar we have for her treatment. There was silence on the phone. Then Brandon said, I didn't know it was that serious. Tom told me this yesterday. He said, Robert, my son is 42 years old, and he still thinks the bank of Dad is always open. And I created that expectation. I created a 42-year-old man who doesn't know how to stand on his own feet financially. Compare that to Mike's daughter's financially independent, grateful, thriving. Here is what I want you to take away from this. If you are in your 60s or 70s, and your adult children ask you for money, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1, if I give this money away, will I still have enough for my own retirement, including unexpected medical costs? Question 2, am I teaching my child to be financially independent, or am I teaching them they can always come to me for money? Question 3, would I be comfortable asking my children to support me financially in my 80s if I run out of money because I gave too much away now? If the answer to question 1 is no, or if the answer to question 3 is no, then you need to say no to your children. I know this is hard. I know it feels like you're being a bad parent. I know your children might get upset with you, but let me tell you something Mike told me that really stuck with me. He said, Robert, the greatest gift I can give my daughters is the certainty that they will never have to take care of me financially. He said my financial independence is my final gift to them. And I think Mike is absolutely right. Your children can get loans for houses. They can get loans for cars. They can get loans for businesses. They can get loans for weddings. But you cannot get a loan for retirement. You cannot get a loan for cancer treatment. You cannot get a loan for your 80s. So protect your retirement savings like your life depends on it, because it does. And if your adult children need money, help them make a budget. Help them find better jobs. Help them understand loans and payment plans. But don't give away your financial security, because all you're doing is trading your independence for their temporary convenience. 30 years from now, when you're 85 and living in your own home, instead of moving in with your kids, they will thank you for saying no today. I want to hear from you now. Have you been in Tom's situation or Mike's situation? How did you handle it? Leave me a comment below, because I read every single one. If you found this helpful, please subscribe every week. I share what I'm learning about retirement, the good, the bad, and the painful. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, your kids can borrow money, you can't.